This is Ian Bailey with Ian on Personality. Today I'm going to be going through the characters in Star Wars and speaking about their different personalities. This is a follow-up video to the one I made about famous people and sports stars. High demand. So I want to go through these. Then I'll make a video about X-Men, and then I want to show you some interesting take on characters that have a sort of a backwards spin to them. So Star Wars is probably the most popular movie franchise of all time, for sure the first three. And the character really rings true to us, I think, because the personalities of the characters, sort of the archetypes, the mental symbolism it touches upon is so human and relates to us so much, despite the fact that it's sci-fi. I really think that's why people like it, because it rings true. The personalities ring true to personalities that we like, that we see in everyday life. And it's really a classic adventure movie. Doesn't really have mystery. It's pure adventure, which is fun. So let's go through the basic characters. So Luke Skywalker, we can really relate to him because he's a very classic character who's sort of an everyday kind of person who discovers that he has more stronger powers and some dynamicness and some creativity. So in my personality system, I call people sustainers, people that they like to follow the status quo. They don't like to stand out too much. They prefer 9 to 5 over wild jobs. They seem like everyday people, and they themselves have to find their own talent inside or mold themselves. Sustainers. They sustain the status quo. They sustain the way things are going. So he's very much a typical kind of person who we like him because he's a regular innocent guy who discovers something great within him. And Darth Vader really is a very typical what I call a commander or a monarch. He's a personality that's very domineering, very unhealthy commander, I should say. There are healthy ones. We'll speak about that later. So he wants to take over with aggressiveness. He's out, these type of commanders, commanding people, are almost always portrayed as bad because people that make films want you to enjoy happiness and fun, and taking down the awful bad guy who seems insurmountable. And I'd say Darth Vader, as well as a couple other characters like Bane. I think there's another one. These characters are not your typical. Oh, Magneto. Magneto was voted the top bad guy of all time by IGN voters, I think it was. So the reason why these heroes, these supervillains, are so bad is because they're not just these like kooky people that are skittish and have more of a second creative type of quality about them. They're really like organized and they're evil and they lay the smack down and they're tough. And so they're really very I guess a J in the Myers-Briggs. So that's Darth Vader. He's very compelling. Also in the movie, very typically in movies, there's a wise man archetype, as the Jungians would say. There's a wise man who gives advice and leads people along the way. So that's clearly Yoda. Yoda is this little man who's dispensing wisdom. As with many archetypes, including Moses, he doesn't have the physical prowess as his. He's a small person. I know he's a Jedi and he defeats people. We'll speak about the symbolism of the fighting of the Jedi later. But he's a little man. He's hunched over. He's the wise man archetype, which is the investigative personality in my system. Okay, R2-D2 and C-3PO. So C-3PO, I think it's the helping personality. Always, worrying about people, wanting to care for them, helping situation. A robot is built to help us. R2-D2 is this little, I think, a creative type. Different kinds of creative people. He's not making all these paintings and everything, but he's often put in comical moments and making funny little sounds. He's more of like the thinking scientist type of person. He's not sitting in a laboratory, but he's kooky and he's comic relief. So what? And the stormtroopers. So the stormtroopers are like evil sustainers. They're people who just your average Joe kind of person, who are made or manufactured to be the ones who carry out the deeds of the commander, which is very common in shows. You have the henchmen in all these movies and stories. What's interesting is Han Solo. So normally the guarding archetype, again, guarding people are people that can be very intense, very defensive, or they can be super self-controlled and perfect in their diet. The guarding type. So usually the guarding type is portrayed as a pure bad guy in movies and in stories. But here Han Solo actually is helping out the good guys. So of course he's very brash. He's kind of like Pyro from the X-Men series, especially in the movie. So he actually harnesses his intensity for good to help the cause that we want in the universe. So it's a bit of a reversal there. It's a little bit out of the norm, I admit it. But Han Solo is that guarding type. He's very defensive. He actually is connected to Princess Leia, who's another type of commanding person. She's very commanding. She's on her own, kind of like Kate from Lost, just on her own kind of commanding person. Unlike Darth Vader, who has his own, his whole army and entourage. Of course, they're related, obviously, which it's in the genes, huh? Yeah, that's a basic breakdown. I'm sure people will have Boba Fett theories. Maybe you can tell me what you think about Boba Fett. He's probably some kind of commanding personality. He's a real, awesome, powerful guy. Probably not as powerful as, obviously not as powerful as Darth Vader. Maybe we'll talk about it in the comments. So that's a basic rundown of Star Wars, and all the personalities make sense. It's a very classic type of story, played out in the science fiction universe a long time ago. I'd love to hear any comments you have, please. This is Ian Bailey with Ian on Personality.